I just love that smell of petrichor. So it was a pretty nice looking day this morning, but it's actually pretty weak inversions and they've broken through and we've got some showers. So I'm procrastinating a bit. I'm supposed to be making a list of all the stuff I need to sort out for X-Alps, like gear and what I need to pack and not pack. I was just thinking of this book. So it's got a lot of great stuff in there. I've only just scratched the surface. I went straight to Kriegel and Mara's stuff. I've actually also got a gliding flight, hopefully tomorrow, with a pilot who flew from Kingaroy to Victoria. So it'd be great to try and learn stuff from him. But yeah, Kriegel and Thomas, they've got all the organisation stuff. So I'm not, I don't know, sometimes you might say I'm terrible at it, but other times I'm not so bad. I do write lists. Oh, by the way, I've got some time lapse going today. So yeah, what I wanted to say is one of the things in that book, one of the pilots, and I've heard this thing before and I think it's a myth, was saying that, you know, if you fly to a lake or something, the difference in humidity means that the air is less dense and it rises. And yeah, there is some scientific background to that because humid air is less dense, but I don't think it stacks up. And I think that if you do the maths and you do the numbers, it's not a significant difference. It is a difference, but I don't think it's significant. I think it's far more significant that those kind of places are usually good triggers. So I've been looking at the temperature, how it changes over the course of the day. Like when we look at work with just each TAF, you look at the OBS. And when it's a thermic part of the day, some of the TAFs you notice that the temperature gets really spiky. So you can imagine that the air's heating up and then a thermal is bringing in cooler fresh air from somewhere else. But some TAFs do that more than others, you know, like, so I remember someone asked once, oh, how much difference is there? And I said, well, it's going to be different everywhere depending on where you are. Like if it's a windy day and all the heat's being blown away and it's all going in dribs and drabs, then there's going to be small temperature variations. But if it's somewhere that's a little bit lee side, that's protected, the air can heat up a bit more. So of course it depends on how much sun you got and how much heating you got on the ground, depending on how moist it is and what kind of surface it is and stuff like that. But it's a lot of thermals is to do with how protected it is from the wind, because it doesn't matter how much the rate of heating is if the amount of time that it's heating for is very short. So the difference was about 2 degrees. I haven't seen it more than that, like with the noise and the temperature readings. So I think that's a pretty reasonable amount to assume that that's as much super adiabatic heating as you get before thermal triggers and releases it. Maybe if it's really protected, you'll get a bit more. And remember that temperature sensors are, you know, between 1.5 and 2 meters off the ground at the standard height. If you're on the ground or much closer to it, there's going to be more of a difference. Anyway, so 2 degrees, that's Celsius I'm talking about, that's the same degree in Kelvin as well. That's 2 degrees out of, say, about 300 Kelvin is your ambient temperature. That's less than 1% difference in density, because density is proportional to temperature change. That causes the thermal to, you know, break off. That's about as much difference as you can get before it gets evened out by the thermals doing what they do. So what you have to do is calculate how much density difference is due to a different amount of humidity. And humidity is incredibly dependent on heat. So hot air can hold exponentially more. What do they say? It's 7% for each degree Celsius that it can hold more. So you compare the humidity of what over the lake or whatever to the ambient humidity somewhere else, and you tell me what the difference is and whether it's significant compared to temperature differences. And the other thing is that it actually takes a lot of time for humidity to be absorbed. So this is another myth that people say, oh, it's wet ground, that's why it's raining outside, because all these clouds come from evaporation off the ground. It's like, yeah, there's some science to that, but do the numbers really stack up? If you look at the satellite picture, one place you see this a lot is the high pressure system that sets up over southwest Australia. So it drags all that airflow over the desert, and by the time it's passed over the desert, it's very dry, up to 4 kilometres or more as the mixing heights with thermals. When that southeasterly trade moves offshore, so it's blowing from the land to the sea, you just see this big, the blue sky continues way out to sea. And gradually, after, 1,000 k's or a couple of thousand k's, you start getting some clouds forming. And then eventually that maritime layer of cooler air underneath and moistening and cooling the air, that's the dry continental air, it gets thicker and thicker and deeper, and eventually it gets strong enough to have showers. But they're pretty light showers, pretty shallow cloud depth, and they're not like this. This is pretty deep showers, so it takes several days for the moisture to be evaporated into the atmosphere, and it's not like it just springs up from some wet ground the night before. Very complex, keeps us in a job, I guess. What else was I going to say? It's probably just about enough, to be honest. Bit of a rant. I probably should get down to doing some work.